Today we're talking about deer hunting in April. Welcome to the Four Seasons. I'm your host Ken Johnson. Today we're actually going to be talking about deer hunting, but this is April, so why am I talking deer hunting? Well, April is actually a time of the year most deer hunters overlook, and is probably one of the most important times for deer and the production of antler and deer health. So this is a critical time of the year. So April and May, you have a host of issues going on. The bucks are needing to take on as much nutrition as they can to bulk up, cause anything that is over what they need will then go into antler stores. And antler production requires protein and calcium. Those are the two main things to worry about. The does, they are producing fawns. And so they need to have calcium and protein. There's also a number of parasites that start happening because it's warming up. And that causes a problem. The other thing is, normally water is less during these times of the month. So in these cases, what's happening is that when they need the protein the most, they're not getting it, and they're getting parasites. And so we as conservationists, as hunters, we need to not be thinking about just taking the deer out as being the end-all be-all for management. We need to think of stewardship of the natural resources. So if you happen to have any type of, I would say any type of like leased property, private property, where it's legal for you to feed deer, then I think that you need to start a management program around this time of the year. Now there's a number of ways to do it, and my preferred is to first set up some type of trough. You can buy troughs, you can make troughs out of stuff. There's a number of ways to doing it, but I like a covered trough because of rain, but you don't have to. But for what I do, I think you need a covered trough. I suggest putting out wormer pellets. So what that is if you go to a feed store and you talk to the feed store, they sell pellets that are dewormer pellets that's part of the feed. And this is normally like people raise goats. Goats and deer are very similar. And so goat pellets are about ideal for deer. And the problem with goats is they get parasites a lot. So you can buy goat pellets that already have the dewormer in it. So it's feed and wormer pellets. I would recommend from April to July to put at least one bag for every 20 deer that is known in an area using a trail cam every month. The reason for this, they have to have access to water. You can't keep them on a constant diet. This is just a way of making sure that if they do have a parasite, they get less parasites. Now there's another way that you can do this. If you don't like animals getting dewormers and things of that nature. There is a more natural way. It comes with problems. There's no guarantee that they'll use it. But some people, what they do is they put out charcoal. So I've shown how to make charcoal in the past with my char can. So if you haven't seen the char can video, see that. You can make charcoal. It is a pain. And put out the charcoal, and then if the deer need it, they can eat the charcoal. It will sort of kind of get rid of some of the parasites, but not all. So that is something that you can do, but I don't recommend it. I recommend the dewormer. Now, I recommend also doing food plots. The food plots that most hunters put out, they're normally set up around August, September latest. Some people do July, but the food plots are made for winter hunting, especially in the South. And they really don't do much good for the deer. That is not when the deer need the food. So it's more for the hunter than it is for the deer. You need to set up food plots around this time of year for the deer. And a diversified planning is critical because they're going to need shoots and they're going to need high fat. They're going to need a number of high protein items, so soybeans, things of that nature. Plant that, any type of grasses, grains that, well, I take that back, not grasses, but grasses that produce grain. So think rye, think wheat, not just grass. Grass itself don't do a lot. So you'll need something that produces a grain. Sorghum, that's a good one. But have a diversity. That's why I'm trying to get at, not just one thing that I'm doing this plot, but actually maybe do rings and have rings or do rows. You can go to the grocery store and get some black-eyed peas, and there's all kinds of plants that we eat that are viable seeds. You can go get feed oats and plant a row of feed oats. You don't have to pay for seed quality seeds to get plants to grow. Lentils actually grow very well. And so you can put lentils out. A number of things that you can plant that will help the deer. Now, and also, like for instance, if you go like to a Dollar General and places like that, there's a company called American Seed Company. Their seeds are like sometimes $4 for $1. So you plant a bunch of brassicas, radishes, number of those plants. The seeds are so good, even though they're so cheap. You can pretty much guarantee that one seed will produce one plant. So you don't have to overseed like you do with other brands. So that's a little trick. From there, what I would recommend also is after you've done all that, put out some feed blocks. And people are like, well, first of all, you can't get them because it's hunts. Everybody's going to come up with a problem. Instead of looking at, well, where's the solution? If you get a box that's 8 by 10 by 8, I think is what it is. Length, width, no. 10 by 8 by 8 is what it is, sorry. So 10 by 8 by 8 box. You can do 2 boxes per sheet tray. And it is pretty much a an easy recipe of, if you use a 20-ounce cup as your measurement on your dry ingredients, get you some chicken layer pellets and do 4 of those 20-ounce cups per box, and then do 4 of a dry sweet molasses. You can buy that. It's just kind of almost pelletized. It's just pelletized crude molasses. And then do 4 of a filler. Now, I like rice bran. You can get wheat bran. You can get a number of brands. That's high protein stuff. High minerals, high everything. And you can get oats. I would not put corn. Corn is hard to digest. Anytime you see corn in something, it's nothing more than a filler. We like to use corn because deer like corn, but it really provides little to no nutritional value. And the reason for that is that the corn itself has a protein structure that binds up the nutrition. So you really don't get much out of corn unless you nixify. Some people call it nitrification. Nixification is also another one, or nixify. It means to basically subject it to lye to break down that protein structure. That's where we get hominy from, and that's the reason why they do hominy. So that actually breaks up that protein structure that's binding up the nutrition. So I wouldn't put corn in there, but I would do 4 fillers. That is like a white or a rice or wheat bran, oats, something along that line that is good for deer, that you know is good for deer. Add that in there. Mix in to that 1 cup of salt. And there's no need for iodized salt. No need for any type of fancy pink Himalayan salt. Just regular table salt. 1 cup. And that's a regular measuring cup. Then 1 20-ounce measurement of sugar. So we already got molasses, then you're adding sugar to that. There's a reason for that. Then you'll take and you can put in a cup of quick lime. Now, quick lime, you can either make quick lime or you can buy it. It'll be normally in the like the home improvement sections where your mortar mixes and concrete mixes and things of that nature are. Quick lime is also used for gardening. Basically what it is they take either limestone or bones and they will heat it up until it's red hot and put it in water. It's also called slake lime. And that process of heating it up super hot and then putting it in water makes it into a readily available type of lime. And so that gives them the calcium that they need. So you want to put in 1 container of, or one thing of your quick lime. Now, to that, you will then take 1 cup, 1 measurement cup of peanut butter. You'll take 24 ounces of oil. And you'll mix that together. You'll take your dry ingredients and you'll separate it between 2 buckets. So you'll pour all of it into a bucket. That'll make roughly about a half of a 5-gallon bucket, more or less. And then you'll just stir it up. You'll switch it around, shake it around, move it from bucket to bucket to bucket. Or if you're gonna do this a lot, I would recommend getting one of those compost turners. It makes it so much easier. But if you don't have one of those, the 5-gallon bucket method works beautifully. It just takes more work. And you just keep shaking it back and forth, kind of like you do between 2 cups with liquid, doing it with dry ingredients. From there, you'll separate that out between the 2 buckets, and you'll then make a well, and you'll pour a little bit of that peanut butter oil mixture, and because it's 1 container of oil, and then 1 thing of 24 ounces of the syrup, and then you got the peanut butter. You'll mix all that up. So then what you'll do is you'll pour it in those little wells and stir it up. And then once you've got half in one and half in the other, you keep shaking it back and forth and stirring, and eventually it'll all meld together. I know this is a very convoluted, long process, but it's a lot cheaper in the long run, and I think it produces a better block. From there, take some parchment paper, line the box with parchment paper so that all sides are covered, and you got some parchment paper up for the top to fold over. Place them on sheet trays. You should be able to fit 2 boxes per sheet tray. Preheat an oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. You gotta be careful because you're dealing with an oven, so you're putting cardboard in an oven. It will take the heat, but this is for electric oven, and you need to be careful. You don't want to have anything that could touch a burner. It shouldn't if you do it right. From there, you'll fill the boxes with the stuff. You don't want to tamp it down, but you kind of want to press a little bit with a spoon in layers, but you don't want it to be like really compacted. The reason for this is so that you got even heating. Put a sheet. You put the paper on top of it. Make sure it's all covered up good, and then put a heavy sheet tray on top of that. So you got a sheet tray on bottom, and then a sheet tray on top, and you just lay the top one upside down over it. Okay. So basically it's like mirror images. You'll put it in the oven, and then you'll bake it for an hour and a half. Now, the reason for that is so that the sugars will start melting down. That's all that's there for. You do not want to use your wormer pellets in this process. I know some of y'all would think, well, I'll just put the wormer pellets in the block. It can mess up the dewormer because there's heat tolerances on that stuff. So all the stuff I gave you, there's no heat tolerances to really worry about. So don't put the dewormer in this. You're wanting to use chicken pellets, everything that, or egg layering pellets and all that, the crumbles. So you put it in the oven an hour and a half, and then take it out. And this is where you get a like a 1x1, anything that you can use as a tamp. You open up your box and you start tamping it down best you can. That just means to compact. So you just taking your 1x1 or whatever and pressing down to kind of compact it. Then you take a piece of cardboard cut to that size, lay it down on top of it with a sheet of parchment paper lining it, so that it's not on the cardboard itself, because you don't want anything to stick. And then place some heavy weights. Bricks work wonderful. And let it sit for 24 hours. Once you've done this, invert it out onto like a cooling rack or something like that. Then let that sit for another 48 hours in a cool, dry location. And that will give you feed blocks at a fraction of the cost. And then put those feed blocks out now. So when you're doing any type of your routine feedings for your dewormer, put out a block or two. Whenever you're tending to your food plots, put out a block. And just make sure that you have plenty of protein available for them, and that you're getting rid of the parasites. It's critical at this juncture so that your next hunting season you'll have the best, healthiest herd possible. And this is one way to improve your herd and the health of your herd. I hope you've liked this episode. And if you do, and you like the content I've been putting out, please like. And go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell and share the videos. This is something that really will help out the channel as we start transitioning over and start doing some more projects. I may actually do a food block video closer to deer hunting season, but for right now I'm in the middle of getting my house ready, so I can't do this right now, but it's something you can be doing. So go ahead and be doing it now. And if you have any problems, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of YouTube videos on how to do this. So I gave you my recipe. You can look at another one if you think it'll work. A lot of them will use corn. Don't use corn. Use some type of filler that the deer can digest. High fat. Fat is critical, but also high protein. That's the reason for peanut butter. That's the reason for the grains. So make sure you put a lot of protein in those feeds that you're doing. A lot of fat, because the baby deer will need that as well. And I will see you again next time. Goodbye.